Matthias, what is this?
Yes, that's what we're going to talk about today. What is this in JavaScript? What is bind, and when is it a problem, and why does this sometimes point to that? That's what we're going to talk about today.
You're watching DevTips with me, David, and
MPJ.
We got it.
Why did I do the thumbs? Shit, I hate myself.
Should we do it
now.
again?
No, leave it in. Leave it in. I need to take my punishment.
This episode is sponsored by SkySilk Cloud Services. Thank you, SkySilk. They are a new VPS hosting platform with a unique rewards program, which lets you earn Sky Points. And they can be used toward account credit or select prepaid gift cards. SkySilk offers simple one-click deployments of Linux distros like Ubuntu, CentOS and Debian, as well as over 40 apps and tools including WordPress, Magento, OpenVPN, MySQL. Sign up today at skysilk.com and get 500 free Sky Points. Get 250 more by using the code DevSilk2018. Thank you, SkySilk. Now let's get on with the show.
So one of the more confusing things about JavaScript is what this refers to. It tends to be weird when you get into JavaScript. What is this? Which is the title of the video. What is bind? And when do we use it? And when is it a problem? Yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that. That is what I briefly wanna address.
Yeah. Okay, so here's the layman understanding of this. So say I have a Dragon object.
A Dragon function.
A Dragon function.
Yeah.
And the Dragon function can do... Or no, let's say I have a Dragon object. I don't know what's the best here. I have a Dragon object. The Dragon object has a breath. It's fire in this case. So this is a fire dragon. And then it has no, let's call it element. Fire. And then it can breathe. And that is a function. And the function returns. No, the function just console logs. Okay, like this. I am breathing. Element. So let's do it like this.
Yes. Interpolate strings is nice.
This dot element.
Yep.
So, and then just do dragon dot breathe console log, and I will run this in my terminal just to see what happens. Whoops. Yep.
Can we do it with Quokka instead?
Oh, we can do it with Quokka. Yeah, Quokka.
All right, cool.
Okay, so I'm running breathe here.
Yeah, and just instead of console logging it, just return the string so that we can use live comments to evaluate. So
what's happened here is that we have this Dragon object.
Yeah.
And it has this property that is like secret. It's private only to what's within here.
Well, it's not really.
No, it's not secret.
At all.
Okay, it's not secret.
It's a property of the Dragon. This is actually a problem with the prototype model, that it's really hard to do private things.
Yeah, you're right.
Private properties, we're gonna talk about that on the Fun Function episode following this one.
Oh yeah.
On the private properties, but it's not private, but it is a property of the Dragon.
So here's a property, and this property is not meant. For me, in my mind, this is not meant to be used by anyone else. The only method that is used is this breathe function. And it's returning thing. And then to ensure that it's this element that is using and not some other element. To ensure that it's really this element.
Yeah.
Because we could put element here, right? And even though this is called element, when we prefix this here, it uses the own objects element, whereas if I were to remove that, it would reference the big element outside.
Yeah, the global element,
yeah.
sort of.
So let's re-add this.
Yeah.
That is what this is for me.
Yeah, that is, I think that is accurate. Let's actually, can we just get that breathe function, like get the object away and just have the function remain.
So you mean like extract this part?
Yeah, exactly, and just throw everything else away. And just call breathe on its own.
Okay. So I could do like that and just make a new breathe here.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, so this still works.
This still works. So here the Dragon uses this breathe function, which is referencing to that breathe function.
Yep. So let's take the dragon completely out of the picture for a little while. Remove that element variable because we're not using that also. No, the element variable, the const, that one, so that you're just not distracted. And then you just comment out the entire dragon.
And let's just run breathe.
Yes.
So now this is referencing to this, which is something that should be, I guess, in this function, but there is nothing here, right?
Yeah, exactly. What is this at this point? Can you just use Quokka to figure out what this happens to be in this case? Because I have no idea. What is this even? This is so...
Process, blah, blah, blah. Hover it and you will see it's...
Yeah, I see it.
It's
so
node?
Yeah, so I think that this is the node global object.
Yeah.
Can you log out the just global and see if it's the same? No, it doesn't quite look the same. This is something else. Well, no, hang on, it is, right?
I think it is sort of the same.
It is. Yeah, they're the same. So if you're just because we're running things in Node here, and I think that if you would be running this in a browser, this would be referring to like the window object.
Window or document, something like that.
Yeah, exactly, something like that. Yeah. Just falls back. So what I'm getting at here is that this is just context sensitive. It's just like in normal English, really. It's just like, hey, what is this? I mean, it depends on the context.
Oh yeah, you're right. I never thought about it that way. That was pretty clever.
Yeah. So you can actually let's just remove this and global for a bit, and now take dragon and bind that to breathe.
So I should uncomment this.
Yeah, and let's actually I'm gonna take this here and I'm gonna remove that.
Yeah, cool.
And now without re-adding that, I want you to
Is this the way you write it? I'm not really good at this. Dragon.bind?
Yeah, let's try that and see what happens.
Dragon.bind is not a function.
No, so it expects so there exists no bind method on Dragon.
Yeah, which is correct.
Yeah, exactly, because this is just a simple object, it has no bind function.
So I don't know bind. What do I use it for?
Yeah. So bind is, I'm gonna give you a hint. Bind is a function or a method on function.
Ah, okay. So if I have the breathe function, it should have bind.
Yes.
And then I bind it to the dragon.
Yes. Exactly. So what bind does is a bind doesn't manipulate breathe.
Wait, so
it returns so it returns. So what happens here is that breathe.bind, if you just check what breathe.bind returns.
Lambda, what's that mean?
Yeah, it means that it returns a function.
Oh.
And it returns a function that is
bound
to breathe.
Itself?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, oh, so wait, but breathe, shouldn't it have more parameters here? Like, shouldn't I add something more? Like, right?
No, actually not. Not in this case.
Okay.
Well, we'll talk about, perhaps we'll have time to talk about the other parameters to bind, but in this case, the first parameter to bind is what's important. Because what bind does is that it takes the breathe function,
Yeah.
and then it binds that this scope of breathe to Dragon.
Yeah. Cool.
And then it returns that bound function. So bind is going to return a new function for you.
Yeah, okay. But then...
So it's not gonna mess with the scope of the original function. It's returning a completely new function.
So that's why this breathe here still returns undefined, because that is unmodified. But if I were to... Now Dragon should have a breathe function.
Right? You might think that, yes.
No?
But it doesn't. No.
Why?
Because it doesn't mess with the Dragon either.
Okay.
All it does is return a new function that it's where this is. It's kind of like a sentence.
So let's just make a new breathe.
Yep.
And call that one instead.
Yep.
Ah, okay. So the lambda part is the new function that is returned.
Yep.
And I add that to a new breath. So we can just rename this new breath as Dragon's breath.
Yep.
Sort of.
Yep.
Because we have the breathe here. I don't even know the spelling of breathe.
Nah.
This is not my native language.
No.
It feels wrong, but whatever.
Yep.
So we have breathe here. It's just a function living by itself.
Yep.
And then we have the dragon. It's just a dragon, like a fire dragon. But then when we're doing the breathe bind dragon, then we're telling the breathe function that if you have any this, you should think of it as the dragon's stuff.
Yeah, precisely.
And returning that as a new function, the lambda here. And we save that as dragon's breath, but I guess it should be dragon breathe, okay?
Yep.
And that's why it's now the dragon's fire that is being breath. And we can just change this into from a fire dragon into an earth dragon.
Yeah.
Dirt dragon.
So this is very far from how this is you're encountering this in actual development, but I just wanted to show you like the simplest possible example of this problem.
Yes.
And how bind works. So that is what bind does. It takes a function and it like forces this to mean something specific, and then it returns a new function where that is bound to the dragon or whatever you want this to be. So let's try to manufacture like if you go back to the earlier code, if you place breathe in the dragon again, like as a method.
And I remove the bind stuff here, and then just breathe dragon.
Yep, breathing dirt. It's just the shittiest dragon.
Okay.
All right. So let's manufacture like because the time you run into this is when you have a
say that we have
an on-click handler. That's a typical problem. So let's just try to manufacture like the case where we have like a DOM button or something. So let's just create a create an object called
button.
That is a button. Yeah.
Like that.
And let that have like an on-click handler. Yeah. And that is just gonna be null at the moment, I suppose, because it doesn't exist. And I think that is it. Like in reality, these would probably be classes, perhaps, but the concept is still going to be the same, and like just having them be simple objects is gonna make it a little bit easier for us to reason about it.
Should I remove the dragon stuff?
You can keep that, I think. But now let's say that we had like this was we were rendering stuff and we wanted to assign the on-click event of button to the to drag and breathe. Are you with me?
Say it one say it one more time.
Yeah. We have a button.
Yes.
When that button is clicked, we want the dragon to breathe there.
Oh, okay.
Can you do that?
So I take the dragon.breathe function and I bind that to the button.
Yeah, but I think you're jumping ahead. Like, pretend that you didn't know how bind worked.
Okay.
Because I want to show the problem first.
Okay. So I guess I would do button.onClick
Yes.
equals to dragon.breathe.
Exactly. Yeah. And now...
but I should do this after. Sorry.
Yeah, declaring the dragon. Because this is JavaScript. Everything is evaluated line by line.
Like that.
It's a scripting language. Yeah. So now we have assigned dragon.breathe to button on click. And now when the DOM internally tries to call on click, let's see what happens.
So if I run it,
yeah,
I'm breathing undefined.
Exactly.
Wait.
This is
I have button on click.
Yeah.
We have the dragon breathe. Dragon breathe return this element. So it should, like what I thought it would be dirt.
Yeah.
But somehow when it's tied to the onClick, this seems to be referring to the button. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, let's see what this refers to. Let's just check with Quokka in the breathe function what this is. Okay, so in the first case it's onClick, and in the second case it's an element. Let's comment out the dragon.breathe so that we don't get confused by it. Yeah, so it is the button object. And the reason why...
How do you see that it's the button object?
I'm just comparing it. I'm just seeing that, it says onClick.
Ah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, it has an onClick function.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, it has onClick, so that's why it's this onClick. Okay, I get it.
So what happens when we call... When a function is assigned to an object like this. So it's assigned as a property.
Yeah.
So this is a bit hard to wrap your head around when you are used to a language that has classes as a built-in thing. Like, this is not a class.
Oh, okay. So let me just see if I understand it. This function
yeah,
has nothing to do with dragon.
Yes. You're getting it.
It's just a reference. Yes. So this might have just as been like some breathe function.
Yeah.
And we had put that here.
Yep. Exactly.
This would be the same thing. It will yield the same, that this here returns the button. So this, so when we add something here to the property, assign that to the property, that doesn't mean anything in JavaScript.
Yeah, exactly. Doesn't mean anything, except that you can now reference it like this.
Okay, yeah.
And what happens here, so this is sort of like a little bit fakey. You call the function on the, call this function that exists on button. That happens to be assigned to drag and breathe.
Yeah.
So now JavaScript has to somehow figure out, when it runs across this, like this dot element here, it has to figure out, well, What do they mean by this?
Oh.
And what JavaScript is going to be falling back on is simply what is on the left side of the dot here.
Get it.
So that's going to be a button. And that is when we're calling drag and breathe here, that's an okay guess that it does. Like in that case, the guess happens to be correct. But when we have reassigned, when we do reassignments to onClick here, that's incorrect. So that is why we use bind. So can you try to use bind to fix this problem?
I need 1 minute to think. So
yeah,
bind.
That's okay. And now, audience, like try to think for yourselves here, because you now have all the information that to solve the problem.
Okay, this is my thinking. Bind is a property on functions. Yep. So logically for me, it's just like we have to start from the function.
Yep.
So I think some breathe function has a bind thing to it.
Yep.
And if I bind it to the dragon,
yep,
this will return something.
Yep.
This will return a function.
Yep.
That will understand that for me, when I say this, when I run this and I say this, I mean the dragon, not whatever else.
Precisely.
So, and then that is returned. So I would have to remove this here and button.onClick. I want to assign that the sum function.bind here.
Yep. And now it works.
And now when I run button.onClick, it understands that it's the dirt dragon it should use and not the button when it's thinking of this.
Yep. And like now, since we're like in real code, it probably like now we have extracted this out here just to make a point. But normally the function would be inlined like this.
Oh, and then would I do that button on click would be dragon.breathe then?
Yes, .bind.
Dragon,
yeah, so this is
breathe, bind.
Yep.
So when I'm using things from another object, sort of, like if I'm using functions that I've done on another object and I want to use it on something new, I have to be aware that when I add that to something new, when I do button.onClick equals, like I add something to the button onClick handler, I have to ensure what this will mean.
Yep, precisely.
Okay, so this can happen in like ordinary just click stuff when I'm doing with the DOM as well.
Exactly. So this is why you like especially in React application, or really pretty much all applications, you see like this binding going on all the time.
Get it?
So I would like to go in a big tirade on why this is like historically and why the language is designed like that, but we don't really have time for that. Yeah. I'm gonna make it like there's gonna be like a host of like follow-up questions on this, and that is what we're gonna do, like explore in the fun function follow-up on on this thing. We're gonna do another episode on fun function that. Wait, is it released by the time? No, it's going to be released on Monday, right?
Yeah, so this is Friday when this is released, and then on Monday on function, the follow-up will be released when we dive deeper into this.
You're going to have a lot of questions, like some of them might be answered on the fun function episode.
Cool, okay.
So, what did we learn, David?
Can I have some snacks? What a hero!
Kexchoklad. This is a famous Swedish snack.
Yeah, it's like wafers with chocolate. It's nothing special really, but for some reason they managed to get parents to give their kids this when they're like at soccer games and stuff. It's like this is the, I don't know, the goal of going to the soccer game is that you get to eat at this.
Yeah, so we're basically like conditioned from childhood to like these things.
Yeah. So, what did we learn?
So,
I guess I learned the most.
Let's go through the list. Like, did we actually do what we like? What is this, David? Did you learn what this is?
This is referencing something close to where I'm at, but I don't really know what this is. As we've shown here, that you said that the onClick handler here is referencing to something to the left. Whereas if I did the dragon.breathe, then the this in breathe figured out that it belonged to the dragon. But before I bound this, the button on click here thought it was the button that was the this.
Yeah, exactly. You can just remove the bind actually, and then the problem will show itself.
Yeah, so here. Now when I run onClick, and it knows that it should go to breathe, and breathe here references this.
Yep.
But this, in this case, is button. But what I thought when I tied it to dragon, when I tied the onClick handler to breathe here, is that it was referencing the dragon. But this doesn't know that. This will just figure out what it can, and it just sees button here. It's like, oh, this is probably the button.
Yeah.
But we can force it by using bind that says that when we have something that has this in it, we can ensure that this should reference whatever you put here in the bind.
Yep. Precisely.
Is that did I pass?
Yes, I think you did. Like I'm very happy with our little session here.
When do we use it?
Like that, yeah. We use it, and we use it when we when we are throwing like functions around. Because one of the fantastic things about JavaScript is that functions are like just these values that we can pass around. Like you can't do this in Java. Like it's not possible to assign a function to another place. This has many like interests. Like this is why we can do stuff like map in JavaScript so easily. Is because we can just throw up callback functions in there, or filter, or sort, or any of those things. It's a function that accepts a function. That is hell to do in Java, or at least was up to the point when Java actually received like these Lambda functions. But it's still like a bit convoluted compared to JavaScript, and JavaScript is very elegant. But that also has this consequence that it becomes a little bit not obvious what this is.
Could you just give me like an example of when do I encounter this when I'm doing things with the DOM? Like just an example of what can happen. Like if I tie some onClick handler.
Well, let's say that you are rendering a list of dragons in your game. And for each dragon, you want there's a little button in the interface where you want to render, where you want to like trigger the fire breathing function. And so in every little in the for loop or whatever you have that is rendering each dragon button element, you need to assign the click handler of the button somewhere. So like each button is going to like get this breathe function in them, but because functions are completely disconnected in JavaScript, you have to tell it like, okay, you're getting this function now, but since this function is like you have the button onClick handler has no idea of knowing that the function was ever on was ever on a Dragon. Like, it has no idea. It just gets this. It just gets this function. It has absolutely no idea. So it was like we talked about before when you assigned it like this, const some breed function, and like it was here, like so when we are doing this calling dragon.breathe here, or like calling this here, or no, it's this one is the one. Like, we might as well have been doing like this. So now it works, but if we remove this bind here, it doesn't work, and it becomes a little bit easier to see here, because here you are like button on click. Like, this has no way of knowing what this is. Yeah. There is no connection, and this is what is really hard to get your mind around, that button look, these two lines here, dragon dot breathe, like these two lines here, they are completely equivalent. There's no difference between them, none at all. This does exactly the same thing. So like doing like this line here, like it doesn't change this function at all. It doesn't tie anything together here. All it does, it's creating like this reference on Dragon for this breathe, this breathe property, and setting it to some breathe function. But it's not doing any magic at all that somehow connects this dot element and binds it.
Yeah. That's extremely valuable to know. Because the lesson here is also that if you get some unexpected shit happening while you're like looping through things and adding functions to that, just try to bind it and see if it works. That's a quick tip.
Exactly.
And if that doesn't work, then you have a real problem. This episode was sponsored by SkySilk. So if you ever need a VPS that is rapid, responsive support team, and has a fast-growing community, you should go check out SkySilk and use the DevSilk 2018 coupon code. Thank you, SkySilk. Thank you, SkySilk. Difficult name. You have been watching an episode of DevTips with me, David, and
MPJ.
We really appreciate your comments. Write what you thought about that in the comments. Hit thumbs up if you liked it, and hit subscribe if you liked it, and you know that stuff. These episodes come out every Friday morning at 0800 GMT. Figure out your own time zone, figure out your own daylight savings. We can't do that for you. And see you in the next video next week. But before that, watch out for Fun Function and the follow-up video to this video. It comes out on Monday.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.